is launching any minute and we will start. Hello, everyone. So we are finishing up this year. I can't believe it's literally the end of the year. But we have Grace, our resident nutritionist here, and she is going to be talking about how to avoid eating like crap and thinking that as soon as Christmas is over, or I should say New Year's is over, that you immediately have to cleanse. So I think that for both of us, one of the foundations of our friendship is that we love food.
Absolutely.
And
different foods, but food.
Different food. But we do find that it's so important for us to go into the holidays more with a balanced mindset around food, opposed to, I'm like, halfway in, really opposed to, getting into this mindset of saying, screw it. I already had a couple of bad holiday parties where I overdid it. And now I'm throwing in the towel. I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to drink whatever I want. And then I'm going to feel like I need to cleanse for about a month.
Yeah. Or join a gym or do something that will end up potentially making you feel worse in the long run because you can't follow through because it's unrealistic for your lifestyle or unrealistic for your family dynamic or something like that. So what I hope to equip you with throughout this webinar is a boatload of realistic tools that you can use to get yourself through the holidays and successfully into the new year.
Yes, I'm very excited because I peeked through her slides and one of them is about how not all alcohol is created equal. And I really, really encourage you guys to stay with us and tune in for at least the next 20 to 25 minutes because she's going to give you some really awesome information because going out and, just being able to we're going to enjoy a little bit of wine. We're going to enjoy a little bit of alcohol as we go through the holidays, but there's actually a way to do it better that you may really not know about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually the number one request by my 20-something friends. It was just what alcohol should I drink? And it's interesting because we're in this world 24/7 as practitioners. So it's kind of hard to take a step back sometimes and then dial it back some more and realize that not everyone is thinking all the time, oh, how's this going to benefit me? How's this going to benefit me? How am I going to keep feeling awesome? So it's nice to kind of grab info from others to talk about what everyone's really looking for in the end. So.
Well, I just laugh because I'm I only drink French wines. And I say that when I'm out with other people and they think that I'm snobby about it, but there's actually a reason.
There's definitely a reason.
Which Grace is going to talk about tonight that, you can understand the differences even where the wine is sourced.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool things coming at you. So we are going to be starting our slides, the very beautiful slides that she put together. I said that she really outdid any of my webinars, but I know that there are quite a few of you here live with us on Instagram. Just so you know, we are on Instagram. We are also on a webinar. So you guys are not going to be able to see the slides, which is totally fine. But at any point, if you have to hop off, but you really want to have the full webinar, just direct message us your email address and we can shoot that over to you after we finish up tonight. And also if you are looking to just learn a little bit more about Grace's program that she has here, you can use the link in the bio just to set up a strategy call and learn a little bit more about the integrative assessment, which is ran by Grace and Jess.
I'll be talking about that more at the end too, but if Dr. Nicole said, any reason you have to jump off, message me your email and we'll get everything set up for you.
All right, Grace, what are the top things we're covering tonight?
Well, we're covering so many things. We've already talked about alcohol, so that's definitely one of them. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit about alcohol alternatives too, for people who aren't imbibing this season. And then I'm also going to talk about how you can approach going to holiday events without this kind of fatalist mentality where it's the end all be all. And if you eat one thing or do one thing or have one drink, then everything's ruined. And it's kind of, I'm going to talk a lot about the snowball effect throughout the webinar. And then the other top item is going to be how to recover.
Ooh, she's got a lot of good stuff in here. So I think that, one of the biggest things as we move into the webinar is just understanding that you really don't know what you don't know. And this is all about just giving you guys some really tangible tips so that you can step into some of these holiday parties with, just feeling really comfortable, and also just feeling like you're not going to go into this all or nothing mindset, which, so many of us, I feel like, especially in New Jersey, we get into these like all or nothing, like, okay, all or nothing, like eat like crap, or all or nothing cleanse, work out 7 days a week. And it's really finding the balance so you have the sustainability.
Yeah, and that can make a huge difference, again, just in your friend group and your family dynamic and in your own headspace. So I'm going to talk a little bit also. One of my friends asked for like workout tips through the holidays. And so one of the things I'm going to dive into a little bit more is how to use this as a way to meet up with people and as a way to reconnect with people. Like and everything doesn't always have to revolve around eating and drinking this time of year.
Yeah, for sure.
So
tell everyone how you got into this.
How I got into this. Well, it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. I highly value my schooling and all of my traditional clinical training. However, I've never been able to fully get behind being traditionally minded. And it was difficult going through a program that was regulated by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, because everything was standardized and by the book, and there were no exceptions at all. And so I actually thought for a long time that I wanted to be a clinical dietitian. And so I was going through the motions, and I was working in acute care. I was working in hospital settings. I was writing tube feeds, and I just couldn't wrap my head around serving inpatients and going above and beyond and kind of trying to get my point across and helping them heal, and then just coming in the next day and them not being there because they were discharged. And so it was so disheartening. And a lot of times if someone's just gone through a medical emergency or a clinical trauma, like they don't want me to tell them to change their diet at all. They don't want to know about how they should be eating less carbs or less salt or less processed foods. They're still gonna eat the Jell-O that's on their tray.
Yeah, that's a very difficult dynamic.
Yeah, so I loved being a part of that medical team and in that kind of setting where you're going all the time and you really are serving people. It wasn't the right setting for me. So after I decided to move away from the clinical practice, I did work in private practice for a bit, which was exceptionally eye-opening. And I did love it and I learned a lot. And then I would, on my commute though, I would kind of always drive through Belmar and be like, wow, wouldn't that be nice? But I never really ascertain the thought of being able to do like everything I love in one place. So I always tell people when I'm talking about Integrative Wellness Group that if I could dream up my perfect practice, this is it. And I was able to just kind of walk into it.
Oh, thank really you. She's never even told me that.
No, so. I'm not that
nice. Which is why I love you.
But one of my favorite things that I have learned at Integrative Wellness Group is about muscle testing. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, that's me. So I'm able to utilize the autonomic response testing that we do here at IWG with therapeutic diet elevation. So again, going back to my clinical training, I took semesters long courses on therapeutic diets and interventions, but they never told you how to eat or how to live or how to do things in a practical way where you can still go out to a restaurant and still go out with your family and friends and say, okay, I know how to enjoy myself and I know exactly how each food that I'm ordering or each drink that I'm choosing is either going to be of benefit to me or not. So that's something that I like to do at IWG. And with the muscle testing, I'm able to personalize every single dietary plan for every single patient that walks through our doors. So it's not like there's a cookie cutter meal plan or a cookie cutter diet. I'm literally taking the results of our testing. So some people might test for paleo, keto, just like everything you've been hearing about, but then I take into account their food sensitivities. I take into account their lifestyles, their habits, their job. So it's really all, I keep saying personalized, but it's
I think the cool thing too is that what you've learned is that no diet really is forever. There's a lot of diets that you can use that are, it's to attain a goal. Like some people that might be keto, they're initially keto because we're trying to stabilize their blood sugar. And then they move on to something that's maybe more balanced according to their lifestyle once they're blood sugar is
Exactly.
more regulated.
Exactly. And that's the benefit, I think, the overarching benefit of being able to test and not guess. And that was what was lacking for me in all of every other job I had, where I could never wrap my head around being able to sit down and talk to a person who's paying for a service and say, like, I really think that you should do this.
Trust me, I get it.
I really think that off of everything you're telling me, and every deficiency you've had, and every craving you've had, and every mood swing you've had, that this is the supplement you need, and this is the way that you should be eating. That made no sense to me.
That's the unfortunate thing, is that when all of us, that are here listening to this webinar and also on the live, is that we really trust the expertise of physicians, doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, etc. But what I think I've realized over time is that most of healthcare, medicine, nutrition, it's very subjective.
Yes.
It's, that person maybe had an experience themselves, or they have seen a certain diet work in a couple of people, and then they become a huge advocate for that course of care, or that detox therapy, or that diet. And then they're just assuming that everyone is going to have the same benefit.
Yeah, and that it's going to work for everyone. And if you're a 5'3" female, you're not going to be.
Thank you. I'm 5'2", but I appreciate the inch.
I'll take what we can get. If you're a 5'3" female and a 6'4" man is preaching to you about the benefits of being keto and eating X grams of fat every single day, and you're like, oh my God, this is going to change my life. And then you have, like a heart palpitations and you gain 15 pounds. Like, that's not of a benefit to anyone.
Yeah.
So that's why everything is taken such a step further with personalization here. And we do so throughout our programs, throughout consults and follow-ups, throughout meal plans, recipes, patient access through the portal. And I even do menu recommendations, which Dr. Nicole doesn't know about. But people send me the menus where they're going out to eat, and I tell them what to get.
I love that.
So definitely a great reason to be doing what I'm doing here. So,
well, I think it's the biggest thing to take away is that we're trying to help you with balance, and knowing that you don't have to hide away in your home and cook everything from scratch every single day. You actually can be go out and enjoy yourself and just, be more equipped to do it right.
Exactly. And I'm hoping that by doing so, people are able to then move forward without using us as a crutch or something like that, and saying, oh, I have to ask, or, oh, I don't know. No, I want you to feel knowledgeable. I want you to feel empowered and supported and more educated about the dietary choices that you're making.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to bust some myths now. If you're not following along with the webinar, I promise that makes sense. But, so myth number 1 is when you hear people, or if you've said it yourself, and I just want to make the disclaimer that I have done all of these things. I have done all of these things, and then I've done them again. just like I've tried every diet, and then I've tried every diet again. So if these sound like your words, just know that they've been mine too. So if you hear someone saying you can eat whatever you want because it's the holidays, so that is not true. And there are 9 reasons I could come up with that this mentality will not serve you, because this is going to lead to brain fog, inflammation, joint pain, blood sugar dysregulation, mood swings, fatigue, skin flare-ups, weight gain, and my favorite, the snowball effect. So just to jump in with this, I'm going to start with reason number 9, being the snowball effect. This mentality is likely initiated also at Thanksgiving, right? Yeah. So that's definitely the kickoff. No football intended, but no pun intended, but it's definitely the kickoff of the holiday season. And it definitely was this year, because there was such a short amount of time that passed in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is next week.
Which I didn't even realize.
So maybe it even starts at Halloween for some, if you have young kids, or if you're going
that
to parties,
candy.
or if you're a teacher, if you're in a setting where it's a big deal, it could start in October. And so the problem with this is that it's not a selective indulgence. And so the snowball effect is when you give into something you wouldn't normally eat or drink or do, and then all it takes is for that mentality to shift into throwing your hands up in the air and allowing the snowball effect to take precedent over everything else. And this overtakes us because it's the holidays, and then days turn into weeks. And then before you know it, it's the new year and you're beating yourself up over not feeling your best or feeling yourself at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that the mindful indulgence isn't warranted in any way, because it absolutely is. And that's going to be different for every single person. Like whatever your vices or whatever your favorite thing is, like if you're going into that mindfully and understanding that it's not going to undo everything you've worked for, everything you've built, or every positive feeling you're having, then that's fine. But I've personally experienced the snowball effect too many times to count. And I'm happy now to be in a place to share these tools with you so that you can avoid it and avoid the negative mindset entirely going forward.
Well, I want to make a side note about this too, because when we go into this snowball mindset, what's happening is we are assuming like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to do what I want. And yeah, I'm going to maybe not feel the best. I'm going to get a little bloated. Yeah, maybe I'll put on a few pounds, but I'll get my butt on track, literally and figuratively, in the new year. And I'll lose the weight and I'll get back to the gym and I'll do all the right things. But even number 4 here, the blood sugar dysregulation. So when you really kind of go off the deep end and you really indulge and you have a lot of cocktails and you're doing tons of sweets and you're doing a lot of these things, like she said, consecutively over days upon weeks, even months, you are actually creating some longer term changes. Like you can really start to cause your blood sugar to spike and crash. And now when you go into the new year, it's not necessarily just about, lose the weight, but now you actually have to correct how imbalanced your blood sugar is, because now you're shifting into like, okay, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to eat sugars that are healthy. So maybe now you're like tapping into fruit, or you're having like dried apricots and things like that. But what you don't realize is these are quote unquote healthy, even oatmeal. But now because your blood sugar is so unstable, you eat those foods and you spike. And then you crash, and then you're tired, and then you're grabbing a Starbucks middle of the day, and you're just like, oh, why am I so inflamed? Or why can't I lose the weight? And why do I feel so crappy? I'm doing all the right things. And then you completely get off track.
Right.
So it's very much like keeping that in mind, is that it's not just like pack on a few pounds, lose it in the new year. You're actually going to create physiological changes that will definitely stick with you months after the indulgent behaviors.
Right. And that's exactly what I was going to say about the rest of those, is that the other 8 reasons come from the snowball effect taking place. So anytime you initiate this cycle of eating or drinking something that causes inflammation, pain, fatigue, mood swings. So eating gluten after taking a break from it for a long period of time will lead to joint pain, inflammation, brain fog. Having a drink after not for a while is going to do the same thing. It'll affect your skin just like eating sugar will if you haven't had that. And the mood swings goes back to the blood sugar. So it's all related.
And how much sugar is in alcohol?
Oh, well, we're going to get to that. Okay. So, as I said, I decided to make this myth number 1 because I've been there. I've thrown my hands up in the air. I've decided to eat whatever I wanted, drink whatever I wanted. And trust me, the snowball effect kicked in and it didn't end well. And so it always does more harm than good. And basically, I think that driving this point home over the next however many slides and minutes is that it's not worth it. So indulgences are necessary. There are unending ways to elevate your choices. And that's what we're going to be discussing in the next few slides. Okay, myth number 2. There's no time to exercise during the holidays. Yes, there is. So that is absolutely false. Exercise is a great way to prioritize you, to prioritize yourself, your mental health, your physical health, and your well-being, especially emotionally. So if you're someone who has difficulty dealing with stress, and like who doesn't, but if you're that person, then this is something you need to prioritize during the holiday season and especially into the new year. You need to make time, put yourself first, understand that exercise isn't selfish, and also understand that the average American gains 7 to 10 pounds during the holiday season.
Jeez.
Yeah, 7 to 10 pounds just between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That doesn't take into account, like we were saying, Halloween and into the new year. So it brings us back again to the snowball effect. And that is the same amount as one dress and or jean size also.
Really?
Yeah, 7 to 10 pounds.
Isn't that more?
No.
I think if I gained 10 pounds, I'd go up a couple
but
of
it's
sizes.
Everywhere. It depends on where you're holding it. So if you're inflamed in your face in your neck, in your arms. That's why it's dress or jeans or something like that, because you could be holding it in your legs. Like everyone holds it differently, but I never really like to make my work about calories or pounds, because I've done that too. And that doesn't serve me. And in that case, I'm not serving my patients. But I do want to acknowledge that for most people, they come through our doors looking for weight loss or weight maintenance, just as a bonus, because the goal is to just feel better and be healthier overall. And more often than not, when your goal is health, the weight just starts to fall off, especially 100%. With the way that we do things. So it's easier on than off as well, though. So people, I think a lot of times, this will be my first New Year here, but you'll hear like, I don't even know how it happened. You know, it just all of a sudden just came on, and then it takes the next year to get it off. Yeah. And even if it's 10 pounds or less, it's really, really hard to lose. It's way harder to come off. That's for sure. Totally. And so this brings us to the feel-good hormone. So likely we all know that working out releases endorphins, which are hormones produced by the nervous system, neurotransmitters, to help the body cope with stress or pain. So informally dubbed one of the feel-good hormones, endorphins are released in flux during exercise. This is why you call the feeling after a run a runner's high. Mm-hmm. So physical activity also stimulates the release of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. It'll keep your body's stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline at bay as well. So last week was the webinar all about emotions and dealing with families and stress and friends and stressful situations during the holidays. But I'm sure this is something you guys covered, but it's something that I wanted to drive home again, because exercise and food are so connected. They don't always have to be, but this is a really good time of year to be thinking about them both, because they can go hand in hand and lead into a positive response. It doesn't always have to be negative thinking, like if I eat, I have to exercise. Yeah, I was going to say that. I think that's a specific thing to drive home. But I think that too is like there's a couple of aspects that even stand out for me with exercise. Is I feel like that's the one thing in my life when it falls off hard. Yeah. And then I get back to it and I'm like, oh, I feel so good when I do this. Mm-hmm. Why do I allow myself to go stints of time without doing it? Right. And I know that holds true for so many people, but I think it's like really finding something that you love. Like, don't force yourself to go to the gym because you think you should go to the gym. Like, go for a hike. Like, I know it's cold out here in New Jersey, at least. Like, bundle up, if you like to be outside, go for a hike. Like, go to Hartshorn Park, go to a lair, like get on a bike, do something that you actually get excited about doing. Right. Instead of like forcing yourself to do, like drag yourself to the gym and like be on the elliptical and like hate your life. Yeah. It's, I think that's a really significant thing to just keep in mind is trying to really do something that you actually enjoy doing. Yeah. Which leads us right into our next slide. So some things that people were looking for were definitely ways to incorporate a quick holiday workout. Mm-hmm. And this is, again, going off of that, what I was hoping to drive home with this, because like I said, there's such a negative headspace connecting exercise and food, mm-hmm. but that doesn't always have to be the case. Like, exercise is a brisk walk. Mm-hmm. Exercise is walking your dog. Exercise is taking your coffee to walk your dog. Like, it doesn't always have to be a kickboxing class that's $25. If you have sneakers, you can exercise. Yeah. So that's something that I think is so important, especially when like you're going to a stressful event that day, or you have a holiday party, or dancing. Yeah. Like, get on the dance floor and shake your thing. Yes. So just like, oh, that was amazing. Going back to the hormones released when you exercise, though, and going off of that, epinephrine is also released when you smile. Just like oxytocin, which is another feel-good hormone, is released when you hug someone, and it's released in tenfold. So if you're genuinely smiling and hugging your way through the holidays and allowing yourself the time to exercise, you'll definitely be in a more authentic headspace. And I think that's so huge that you said that, because how many people are dreading everything? I'm dreading going to this party. I'm dreading doing that. I'm dreading putting on the dress. Right. And when you have that dread, like, that's just as inflammatory to your body as drinking 5 margaritas. Yeah. So it's like, you have to really think about your mind as well as your nutritional choices. Yeah.
And that's why we talked about what we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we said before, going to the gym can be beneficial, but being outside is going to release different types of chemicals in the body. And, another big thing that everybody talks about is tradition. Mm-hmm. Oh, you have to follow tradition. So that's why I have to eat grandma's apple pie. And I have to have the mac and cheese, and we have to have the casserole. But it's like, even when it comes to tradition, maybe start a new tradition that everybody takes a walk after Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, and being able to just get outside or have do a walk and then have a bonfire or something that really changes the dynamic and creates a different tradition that maybe is not necessarily just reliant on eating a bunch of crappy things that are going to not make you feel well.
Right. If everyone passes out together after the meal, it's not going to be of any benefit to anyone.
Oh yeah. Should we bust that myth too? So by the way, when everybody thinks that it's like the tryptophan that is in the turkey on Thanksgiving that makes you fall asleep or get tired, that is false. So there's two reasons. One is you ate too many carbs and your blood sugar spiked and plummeted miserably. Mm-hmm. The other one is that because the oven was on all day, that both the air and the turkey absorbed carbon monoxide, and and you have a low dose of carbon monoxide poisoning, and that is why you're tired. Yeah. So that's...
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, you didn't know that one?
No, that is a whole webinar in itself. I think we need to add one on Christmas Eve. Okay, that's insane. So the takeaway from that was try something new. You don't always have to, it doesn't always have to be a really hardcore workout. It doesn't always have to be something that's going to cost you a ton of money you don't feel like spending, but it can be something that can be used as an excuse or a way to meet up with people that you might otherwise only go to a bar with.
Yep.
Unless you're going dancing, that counts. Okay.
So this is always a huge one, because I feel like when we have this conversation, so myth number 3 for those of you on Instagram is you shouldn't bring your own dish or dishes to a holiday event. And there's certain people that will give us a lot of pushback and resistance about this. And they're just like, but why? I shouldn't do that. And that's rude. And I'm like, that's not. I'm like, if anything, it's nice.
No.
Like, you're bringing something. It's almost like gifting something to the party.
And as people who like to host, and as people who've hosted many, many events, I'd go ahead and say that it's a weight off for someone to bring something. Oh, and most of the time, you don't care what it is. You know that if they're bringing it, it's for a reason. So that's another mentality that I would love for people to embrace, is that you don't need to be afraid to offer to bring something. You don't need to feel like you're putting them out by doing so. And you really don't need permission. Like, how many times have you been at a party and someone just brought something with them and you're like, oh, okay, this will fit right here. Yeah. So it can be something that can be confirmed prior to your holiday party if you want it to be. And you're not going to insult the host by bringing something beautiful and delicious, even if it's not homemade, but it's something you bought because you know that you are going to enjoy it. But it's always my go-to holiday tip to bring your own food and makers purchase something that, more importantly than being beautiful, is that it's going to make you feel great throughout the event and into the next day. And for me, it's always a charcuterie board. That's how you say it, right?
Yes.
And as someone who's been a plant-based eater for almost 10 years now, and as someone who's also eaten filet mignon as to not insult my host 10 years ago when I first started this journey, I can tell you that I've come a long way, and that I've embraced the things that I like to eat and the ways that I like to show people gratitude, because I think that it's also, by creating something and bringing it with you, it's a way of thanking them for having you into their home.
Well, I think one thing I want to say too, on the flip side of that, is as people that have hosted, I remember this was years ago, but my mom was putting together a party at our house. And at that point in time, it's not that my family was super healthy eaters by any means, but we didn't really have soda in the house. Like, we didn't have, junk food and pastries, intimate. We didn't have that kind of stuff in the house. But I remember the house was stocked full of potato chips. She had like cases of Pepsi and Mountain Dew. And I'm like, Mom, like, what is all this stuff? And she's like, oh, it's for the kids. It's for the party. I'm like, why are we killing the kids? And she just looked at me and she just was so like startled. And I was like, I just don't understand why we have to give this to the kids, because this is what we think the kids want.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I feel like really stood out to me. I think that one of the things that I've made really fun over time, and I know you do this too, is that when I host at my house, I'm not going to put Pepsi in the house. I'm not going to buy crap food, but I am going to make a healthier version of the mac and cheese.
Right.
I'm going to make a healthier version of the pasta salad. I'm going to make a healthier version of all of these things. Like I make a buffalo chicken dip that is completely dairy free. That is the bomb diggity, and everybody loves it. Like, you can make all these things and they're delicious, like spinach artichoke dip.
Yes,
like
I have done that in a cast iron skillet.
Yeah.
It's
and
mind-blowing.
So it's really, I think that it's become a bit fun for me. And a ton of these recipes are on our website, by the way. I do have a cookbook. Yes, I don't really sleep at night. But there's so many ways that you can go about like making these foods really, really delicious and having them at your home. And what's cool is when people are like, oh my God, this is delicious.
Right.
And you inspire them to do things a bit differently in their kitchen.
You keep getting ahead of all of my slides.
Oh, sorry.
But I think that's like, it's a great challenge also, which we both enjoy. So when you're making these alternative dishes, a lot of times you can, first of all, use what you have if you have a healthy pantry, and you can put things on it that you love. So the reason that we're making these elevated options for people is because we love them and we want the people we love to be healthy. And we want them to be educated as to why these ingredients are a better option than what they're used to. So if you're putting, you know, almond or nut-based cheeses and crackers on your charcuterie board, and you're adding olives and hummus and dips and cashew cheese, and
most people are eating it and they're like, this is delicious.
And they just think it's great. And so it's like a touch of personality also, I think, that can really go a long way. And it might trigger some things in people in a positive way to get them thinking about taking the reins on their health and getting it better under control.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like making it delicious and tasty, because if you're bringing like a weird green bean thing and like, and everyone's just like, oh,
like, oh,
what's wrong with you?
But if you're bringing something that you put time and effort and love into, then that's going to go a bit farther. And if you have the knowledge to back it up, and if you're standing there eating it and other people are too, they're going to be interested and they're going to want to understand why it's a better option than what they're used to.
100%.
Okay, myth number 4. I think we already talked about this. Holiday regulars won't be as delicious or enjoyable if they're elevated to a healthier status. So you already touched on this for sure, about like mac and cheese and pasta salad and sweet potato pie and grandma's, what do you eat on Christmas? Stuffing? I've never eaten stuffing, but
it's like ham, no? I hate ham.
Ham. I used to love ham.
I know.
It's things like a honey glazed ham and stuffing or whatever it is. It can, either you can redo them in a way that's going to benefit everyone else, or you can skip it and start a new tradition. So I think family peer pressure, though, is something that you guys probably talked a little bit about last week for sure, but I think it can swing to both ends of the spectrum. Like, either your family is the type of family that's pressuring you to be healthier and say like, don't eat another appetizer, I saw how many you ate, and like, oh, don't do this or don't do that or don't eat this, and here's a salad. Or your family
being encouraged to eat.
And likely that's because your family knows that you're taking a step in the right direction, and something is making them want to hold you back.
Yeah. No, trust me. My husband's family is from Iowa, so I was definitely looked at as being quite bizarre when I decided to go and make a salad for Thanksgiving. And they were eating a pretzel crust Jell-O pie topped with Cool Whip. And I don't like Jell-O, number one. And I was the weird one.
That literally sounds like you made it up.
No, it's a real thing. It's called strawberry salad. So yeah.
I don't know if we could elevate that. I don't know if that's an option.
But yeah, but it was for me, it was not about being rude. I just knew that eating certain things was just going to make me really tired and really not make me feel the best. So I kind of focused on just eating turkey, and I ate some salad, and I had some, greens, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And definitely, I was kind of being watched a bit, and why are you not eating the rest? And, it just kind of made it really blasé. And I was just like, yeah, no worries. I was like, I just, I don't want to be tired for later, because I want to make sure that I can be up and play with the nieces and nephews. And then everyone was like, oh, okay. So, and I just was like, yeah, that kind of stuff just makes me really tired if I eat it, and didn't make it like, ooh, I don't eat this. And what's wrong with you guys for eating it? So I think it's definitely how you communicate and go about it.
Right. It's how you approach the situation, especially if you're being kind of poached by the situation, but it's how you go into it, what kind of mindset you have, and how you handle it. And on the opposite side of that as well, like I mentioned before, I was literally given a filet mignon when I first went. I think it was just vegetarian then, and I was like, what do I do? This is, I knew it was a nice
I'm happy you ate it.
I ate it because at that point in my life, I was like, this would be so insulting if I didn't eat it. They made this for me. They went out of their way. And so there's something to be said about that too, but not when it's going against your morals, your values, your nutritional standards. And that could be anything. It could be the pretzel Jell-O pie, or it could be a steak. But either way, I think that the holidays are an important time to stick to your guns, whether it's allowing mindful indulgences or just staying on track with the healthy eating that you've already put into place, which is of benefit to you. It's not benefiting, what you're eating isn't benefiting anyone else around you. Yeah. So if they're trying to pound into you not to do it, or if you're just getting into the headspace of eating healthier and someone's trying to
sabotage it.
Exactly. It's just not worth your time, and you just have to kind of be above it.
Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day is when people are being aggressive about you should eat this or you shouldn't eat this, that's their own shit. It has nothing to do with you. And like Grace said, is at the end of the day, it's your body and you have the option to make that decision. And, the people that had the snowball effect are the ones going, eat the pie. Yeah. I did eat the pie. I feel like shit. Join me.
I didn't know we could curse on this.
I get a little passionate.
I would have been doing that already. Okay. But yeah, so definitely something to keep in mind. And it's not that I wrote, don't talk about your positive lifestyle, but I take that back, because it's like you have to read the situation. Yeah. So if you go in preaching, no one's going to want to talk to you. Yeah. Because I've been that person too. We're both speaking from experience with everything that we're saying. So if you go in preaching, or if you go in timid and not being able to stand up for what you're doing, either way, it's not going to.
Especially in New Jersey, you'll get eaten alive.
Anywhere you go. Anywhere you go. So stay strong and stick to your guns, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is for you and no one else around you. Okay, this is probably my favorite. Myth number 5, eating one bite will ruin everything. So the key is understanding why you are actively choosing not to eat or drink something, and why you're making that choice and how it's going to benefit you in a positive way. But the mentality of one thing is going to sabotage what I've been working on for weeks, months, or the entirety of the past year. How is that going to help you enjoy yourself? Yeah. And this is not how I encourage my patients to think. And I wouldn't want any of you to do so either, but you still catch yourself falling back into this mentality when you're in this world day in and day out.
I always say to patients, no matter what it is in any avenue of their health, I'm like, if you fall off, get back on. Right. This is not an all or nothing situation. Being healthy is not all or nothing. And if you think that it is, you're going to almost be the bipolar of health, because you're going to be like, the all or nothing is like the mania state. And then you trip or you indulge, and then you're just like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I sabotaged everything. It's such a hard place to be, because then you start to have this roller coaster of the stress hormones as well, which then further perpetuates the whole situation. But if you fall off, who cares? Get back on the next day. Yeah. There's so much room to just be able to, autocorrect what is, whatever the choice was or whatever the decision was that day or night.
Exactly. And so the fatalist type of thinking is what propensitates the snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, and it's the same thing if you're engaging in conversation with a toxic person. So if you're allowing that to happen
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving them your time and your
energy
and your concentration, then that's also going to lead to a snowball effect of like, oh God, like Aunt Sylvia cornered me again. And it's like, no, you allowed Aunt Sylvia to corner you. And she made fun of my hair and called me fat. And it's just not worth it.
Oh,
it's not worth your time.
Aunt Sylvia, geez.
It's just not worth your time at all. Don't let it happen.
Ooh, we're getting into the good stuff now, guys.
Okay.
Alcohol.
Okay, myth number 6. Look, a bunch of people just joined and we started talking about booze. All alcohol is created equal. So this is a lie. Beer, just right off the bat, can range anywhere from 6 to 20 grams of carbs, while hard alcohols like tequila, vodka, those are the only ones I drink, gin, whiskey, they have only 2 to 4 grams of carbs net. They have 0, and wine has only 2 to 4. So that's a big difference if you're going from 0 to 20.
Yeah.
And again, this is never a way that I encourage my patients to think in like counting carbs or counting calories or anything like that. But I'd always rather people focus on nutrients. But when you're talking about alcohol, you can't focus on
Are we going to get into the good stuff?
Hold on. So the most important thing
I'm like holding back
to think about calories and carbs when you're talking about liquid calories, because that's where it's going to get you. That's when it's going to hit you the hardest around the waistline and around like in regard to your hangover. So
yeah, and that's something, if you have a really terrible hangover, that is not always from the actual alcohol. Like, obviously alcohol is toxic to the liver, so it will create some residual effect. But the really nasty hangovers is the sugar crash. Yeah. So like your sugar is so high through the duration of the night while you're drinking, and it crashes so low that you feel absolutely horrid in the morning. So if you're drinking really junky wine or you're drinking a lot of these heavy wheat beers, your hangover will be quite different.
Yeah. So the same way that you can break down the number of teaspoons that would be in a can of soda, you can do the same thing for alcohol. Mm-hmm. And nobody thinks about that when they're like even just drinking wine, or, I mean, you might think about it if you're ordering a margarita or a pina colada. That's what's on the screen right now. But okay, the dogs are scratching at the door. But
hey, come on in, crazy.
It is important to think about, because that is what is going to make you feel worse. So there are several teaspoons of like actual, what would be table sugar?
He's like, I love alcohol too. Hey, you can't. It was a bad idea. You can't act like that. Anyway.
Happy got into the wine fridge while we were in here.
Let's talk about what the alcohol is made of.
Well, that's another thing, and that's something that I like to check in one of our technologies, the bioscan. Sometimes I'll scan alcohol on people, especially people that have a gluten sensitivity or like a wheat intolerance, because beer is made from rye. Like, you don't understand how many different types of grains are in the alcohol you're consuming. And the number of times I send out potato-based vodkas to patients is like, it's crazy, because they don't understand that it's made from corn and
the beloved Tito's, everyone. Yeah. I know everybody thinks they're doing a good thing for themselves, but Tito's it's a corn-based vodka that is not necessarily deemed to be non-GMO. So you're primarily consuming a genetically modified corn-based vodka. And if you're aware of what GMOs are or not, but genetically modified types of foods and seed are made in a lab. So they are very foreign to our bodies. Our bodies actually consider them to be foreign invaders. It does not look at it as digestible food. And then in addition to that is anything that is genetically modified is completely covered in glyphosate, which is Roundup. So that's the primary thing that you're using to kill the weeds in your yard. So there is a lot of issues, and I don't know if you know this, but we have a distillery here in Asbury Park, and when I was there, you do a little tour and everything, and I was asking about gin. So gin is supposed to be made from juniper, and it's supposed to be one of the better options, as well as tequila is from agave. So those are supposed to be more plant-derived types of liquors. And he pretty much revealed to me that their specific gin, in addition to most gins, like 95% of them on the market, are actually not made from juniper at all. They're all made from genetically modified corn as well. And I was just like, I was so devastated. He was just like, kind of like an angry man about it.
I didn't know that.
I was just like, okay, well, that's lovely. So, and then in addition, when we're dealing with the wine, I think I told you about this, but one of the things that I was floored by is when I was in France. So for a period of time, I lived outside of Napa in California, and I was drinking wine and I was learning all about it. I really like got into that wine culture. And I just got to a place that I was feeling physically so ill from drinking wine. Like one glass, like I would have a splitting headache. My stomach would be in knots. Like I just really felt terrible. So
I would lose equilibrium. Like it would actually cause me to like, and it's like it makes you feel like you're drunk when you're not, because it's just messing with you. But go on, it just gets better.
So I was big into wine, and then I just kind of completely got away from it. And then we went to France a couple of years ago, and in France, a lot of places they serve wine, especially, but wine and beer. There's not a lot, well, at least where I was in Paris, there was not a lot of places carrying liquor. It wasn't a common thing that people were consuming. So when I went to a place and they were like, we don't have anything else. We just have wine. And I was just like, and he was looking at me like, what is wrong with you that you don't drink wine? And I was like, all right, I'll have a glass of wine. So I had wine and I was like, whoa, what is this? Like it was a completely different taste. It definitely made you feel different. No hangover, none of that. And I thought it was so interesting. And go figure, just like manifesting, I had France 24 News on, and there was a segment on the news about agritech, which is technology used in agriculture. And there was a whole segment about how they were using artificial intelligence drones over the vineyards, and they were using a special technology to monitor for fungal invasion of the vines. And really what they were looking for was mold. And as soon as they would find the smallest traces of mold, they would go in, they would rip the crop out so it didn't spread and invade the entire vineyard. And this was so mind-blowing to me that fungal invasion of grapes was such a problem that they created a technology around it. Right. And that really just got me thinking. And then I started to kind of explore, okay, how are the practices different in the US? And not only are they not monitoring for fungus properly at most of the vineyards in the US, but in addition to that, they're also spraying tons and tons and tons of pesticides, including glyphosate, in the vineyards in the US as well. So pretty much the point of what we're saying is that you are getting a massive dose of pesticides as well as fungus, which is neurotoxic, hence what you just said about the equilibrium, or having a splitting headache or a migraine or vomiting. Vomiting can be from losing equilibrium as well. So these are all things to really keep in mind is don't drink shitty wine.
Yeah. Not just that, you're basically drinking a glass of moldy Roundup. So when you start thinking about things that way, it'll make you stop. But it's like heartbreaking because my grandfather, I think this is so sweet, but he would buy me, every time he saw me, he'd bring me a bottle of Camus. And which is some nice
bottle.
Wine.
Yeah.
So I would like, oh my God, I loved it so much. And so when I went to Napa, I was like, I have to go to Camus. I have to take a picture for my grandfather. And the day before, I had been at an organic biodynamic farm, not knowing what that was. And for those of you who don't know, a brief overview is that they create their own ecosystem on the vineyard. And so they actually put rose bushes in front of the rows of grapes. And if the rose bush starts to die, they know that there's a problem with the vines. And so just before knowing what I know now about wine, that was mind-blowing. And I was only in Northern California. And so I went there and thought it was amazing. And then I go to Camus and I'm like, I'm here for my tour. And they're like, you can sit on the patio. I was like, what? And so they don't allow you to view the vineyard at all. And so you're sitting in this gorgeous garden and you're drinking Camus. And I sent my photo to my grandfather. And then I go to the bathroom, which is on a trailer in the back. And it literally looked like there were tumbleweeds blowing through the vineyard because it just looked completely dead. And like, that's what they're not showing you. And then I kind of started putting it all together about sulfites and sulfates and how that was in my wine. And that was all I knew about what was causing that shift in equilibrium for me. And so stepping away from that and moving into organic and biodynamic was a step in the right direction. But when you can get it from France and Italy, it's kind of the standard.
Yeah. I wouldn't say biodynamic, but leaning more towards that organic, and obviously eliminating out the pesticides, herbicides, as well as the fungal issues. The wine is really amazing quality. But when you're looking at the bottle of wine, if it says that it's French, you really want to flip the bottle around and see if it was actually bottled in France, because a lot of times the grapes are being sent to the US and it's being bottled here. So just keeping an eye on the the small print on the bottles is definitely huge. And if you can have a nice glass of wine or a nice glass of champagne and feel pretty normal the next day, that's usually a sign that it's good stuff and it's not necessarily exposing you to a ton of toxins. So even your lovely pictures here that is on the webinar though, this is the same story as like we were saying, is 0 calories if you're doing some type of, liquor. But then if you I don't know, I think if you think of almost any drink, even tonic water, by the way, guys, has so much sugar in it. And sodium. But also most tonic water is high fructose corn syrup now. So cranberry juice, high fructose corn syrup, you get a Cosmo, that lime syrup is pure chemicals. You get something with the maraschino cherry in it, that's pure chemicals. So you gotta you just gotta keep it simple. You really, really do. Is just get yourself a fresh lime and some seltzer, or even ask for a fresh orange and seltzer. It's just trying to keep it super simple when it comes to this stuff, because there is just so much more crap in all of it than you even imagine.
I was even looking at, which I'll get to, but I was looking at the ingredients for a drink with bitters, because I'm going to talk about non-alcoholic beverage options after that whole spiel. And almost every recipe I found with bitters included a different flavor of simple syrup. And simple syrup is sugar and dye. It's like wild that we still need that for something to taste good. And then drinking alcohol lowers your inhibitions, and before you know it, you're ordering 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to the taco truck down the street in Asbury Park and eating something you would never.
Are you speaking from experience?
No. And then you're eating something you would never normally eat, and you wake up the next morning feeling hungover, in pain, inflamed, and probably with a breakout. So it's not worth it. But going off of all of that, liquid calories hit your system so much harder and so much faster than anything you could possibly eat. So it ups the importance of pre-gaming your pre-game with healthy foods, and especially healthy fats. So our next slide is talking about the top foods to eat before you start drinking. And this is, I think, especially important this time of year, because a lot of times we have these big events or big meals or big dinners, and you're like, I'm not going to eat for the whole day.
And
that isn't something I touched on yet. I have to blow my nose. So if you're the type of person that is saying or thinking that you don't have to eat for the whole day because you're so excited about the meal or it's so important or something like that, you're going to get there, the party, you're going to get there and you're going to be hangry, you're going to be angry, you're not going to want to talk to anyone, and you're going to go straight for the appetizers, which is like the kiss of death, I think, a lot of times. Because
depending on where you are.
I mean,
but you're going to eat so fast that you're going to spike and you're going to crash your blood sugar.
So it comes back to everything we've been talking about. So I think the top 5 things you could really load up on before you go to an event like this, especially if you haven't eaten for the whole day, though that's not something I'm advising, would be avocado, quinoa, beets, sweet potatoes, or nuts. And
even like a guacamole could be good.
Right. So, or you're bringing your own appetizer that you know you're going to eat, and it's guacamole with siete chips or something like that. And so I went through all the benefits here, but I'll just post them later. And then I think that the healthy fats, the thing is that that's going to allow you to kind of stabilize your blood sugar that would otherwise be incredibly unstable.
It also slows the absorption of the, or I don't want to say it slows the absorption of the alcohol. It's not that it slows the absorption in the sense that you're not going to get drunk really fast, but it's not like slowing the absorption in the sense that like you just have the alcohol floating around in your blood. It's more so just really helping your liver and your gallbladder metabolize it differently.
Yeah. A lot of these foods also are high in electrolytes, which is great because drinking dehydrates your system no matter what. So if you're kind of, again, pre-gaming with foods that are higher in electrolytes, or if you could drink some electrolytes before you go out, that's definitely a great option.
And by the way, guys, like a really simple electrolyte is putting sea salts, a little sprinkle of it in water, and that is going to act as an electrolyte as well.
Yeah.
I would not advise iodized or like table salt at a restaurant. It's more so like your good quality sea salt. So that's a good tip.
Yeah, and super easy to do and come across. My grandmother actually keeps a little vial with her at all times.
Really?
Sea salt. Yeah, so that's an option. And so this is my tip, our tip, something IWG is definitely fully behind. It's that chlorella is one of the top superfoods. And a lot of times I think there's confusion between spirulina and chlorella. And that's because spirulina is particularly good for energy because it doesn't have a cell wall. It takes very little time to digest, making it an instant source of vitamins and protein, whereas chlorella has one of the strongest cell walls in the entire plant kingdom, and it's an algae. So it digests really slowly, which allows for the chlorophyll content to detoxify your body. Overall, it also has the ability to remove heavy metals, chemicals, toxins, all while boosting your immunity.
Pretty much good for anyone.
And everything. And so one of our favorite chlorella brands here that we'll talk a little bit more about, you did a podcast with them, right? And that'll be live soon, is that it's not a toxin that most people try to avoid, but it's also been found to promote the metabolism of alcohol in humans. And so there was a study performed with 6 subjects, found that consuming chlorella before drinking alcohol reduced ethanol in the blood and breath, along with reducing acetaldehyde, which is a contributing cause of hangovers in the blood.
Yeah, the chlorella is amazing, but one of the podcasts that we have coming out, by the way, Instagrammers, this is going to cut us off in 2 minutes. So if you want the full webinar, definitely direct message us your email. But Energy Bits is the chlorella that we really enjoy, and it's because she has really done such a fantastic job at making sure that it is extremely pure. So she actually has her chlorella grown in a controlled environment in Taiwan. So it is definitely extremely high quality from how it is being grown in its controlled environment. But secondary to that is she is using a very specific process using vibration and sound waves to break the cell wall to make it absorb better. Most of the patented process on breaking the cell wall actually is utilizing glass beads. But glass, for those of you that don't know, contains lead. So this is actually causing the chlorella to absorb lead. So most of the chlorella brands that are out there are contaminated with lead and can be contaminated with other things if it is also not grown properly. So Energy Bits is the company that we have now started using because of the purity as well as the standards that she is using in the growing process. So that's definitely something to check out and get your hands on. It is actually, you get 20% off now that I think about it if you use the code IW podcast. So definitely check that out. You get 20% off your first order.
Yeah. I just like can't get over that tidbit because every other type of chlorella is kind of done in the same way. But I just want to say that cruciferous vegetables as well are also going to help your liver detox. So while you might not want to eat like a Brussels sprout salad with your hangover, it's definitely something you want to incorporate, whether it can be like sauteed or steamed or any type of cruciferous vegetable. But also, if you're someone who is dry, or if you're not drinking for whatever your reasoning may be, bitters are a great addition to any type of mocktail. So when your digestion also needs a little support, bitters can facilitate stomach acid and act as a digestive aid. So while there are bitters that contain alcohol and while they're used as like a digestive, there are others that do not contain any alcohol, and this will help with easing digestion, heartburn, nausea, cramping, bloating, gas, and they can actually be really delicious now. I think people are doing a really good job with them.
Yeah, I love bitters.
As promised, here is my almond thumbprint cookie recipe. And like I said,
I grew up on those. Not the healthy version.
Not these. Absolutely not these. But these are really great to bring to a party. And they're really awesome also to keep on your counter if you're that type of person. I grew up in a family where there was always a tray of brownies on my aunt's counter, which was like the one reason I agreed to babysit her kids. But these are a better option than that because they're made with almond flour, almond butter, a little bit of maple syrup, honey. Chalk Zero makes a great monk fruit based syrup if you're trying not to incorporate any sugars. And then just a little fruit sweetened jam. Dalfor is a great one. That's the one I like because it's actually just sweetened with dates. And that'll be emailed to you. So last minute stocking stuffers, just to end the webinar, would definitely be blue light glasses. That's what I've been wearing. I went without them for the whole weekend and definitely had a low grade headache when I came in today. This is Curious Elixirs non-alcoholic bitters. Energy Bits, like what we were just talking about, on the go chlorella tablets. You can actually get them in like single serving packets, which I think is amazing. Integrative Wellness Group spa packages. We have the infrared sauna, hand and foot baths, yoni steams, or our integrative assessment onboarding package,
which we're going to just talk a little bit about. So those of you that are here tonight, you guys probably have been following my webinars for a while. And it was one of my goals for IWG was to obviously have Dr. Nick and I's program, which is dealing with a little bit more elevated health cases. You know, we're working with people that have kind of been everywhere and haven't been able to get answers and really leveraging all of our really amazing, unique testing. But we wanted to give people an option that feel like they're in pretty good health and they're just looking for a better version of primary care. And that was really where Grace and our health coach Jess came in, is they have collaborated together to create a program that is really amazing for someone who just wants to get a baseline. They want to figure out what's going on with them. Maybe they're a little tired. Maybe their hormones are a bit off. Maybe they're dealing with low-grade gut issues. Maybe they want to lose a little weight. Or maybe you really just want to like know what you're allergic to and you want to know what to eat and what supplements are best. So it's a great program that allows you to be super proactive and preventative when it comes to your health. You know, really, I think one of the biggest things that we forget, and I've said this so many times in other webinars, is that we forget that healthcare is about answers and solutions. And I think even more to that is it's don't fix it until it's broke.
Right.
You know, we're kind of like, well, I'm tired sometimes and I can't sleep sometimes and my gut only hurts when I eat out. My gut only hurts after Thanksgiving. My gut only hurts through the holidays. And we normalize things and we just kind of brush them under the rug. And we're very much in this mindset that don't fix it until it's broke. And it's nobody's fault. We've all been programmed that way. And this is what, you know, either keeps us paranoid about our health, thinking like, oh gosh, am I going to get cancer? Oh gosh, am I going to get Alzheimer's? Or it just allows us to, you know, kind of do nothing, stay busy, you know, burn the candle at both ends. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, I now have tons of symptoms and I don't know what the heck is going on.
Right. And that's likely, we say this all the time, because you've just grown accustomed to your new normal.
Yeah.
So you didn't live this way forever. You didn't always feel this way.
We call it aging.
We
We call it aging. We're just getting old.
It's just what happens.
When like one more like 28-year-old, 28-year-old, they're like, I'm just getting old, and I'm like, oh man, you're in big trouble when you're 50 then.
Yeah, exactly. The best part, I think, though, is when patients do come in and they start their programs and they're pretty underway, and you're like, going through with them, and it's maybe 6 weeks, and you're like, how's your reflux? How is your absolutely debilitating reflux? And they're like, oh, right.
Yeah,
And they're like,
I forgot about that.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And that was just one example that happened to me with a patient recently, but it's just so crazy because it's stuck in your mind because they've been telling you detailing it to you and telling you how it's holding them back and how it's causing them actual physical pain and physiological imbalances. And then all of a sudden it's like they start feeling better. It's like it never happened.
Yeah. Trust me, I get it. So Grace's program with Jess is just a little bit different than our program that we have. Primarily, you're going to be focusing on some time with Jess, our health coach, and you're also going to have some time with Grace, and they're going to really be taking a significant health history. We're doing basic blood work. We're also leveraging some of our in-house technologies like the bioresonance scan. And then definitely when it comes to one of the other tests, which we will talk about, the autonomic response testing, this test is just amazing because this is allowing them to get really, really specific on what supplements are personalized to you. And like Grace said, is what foods and diet is personalized to you.
Right. And I think that is one of the biggest differences here. It's definitely not the overarching difference, but when you get, and like, we're so spoiled because we're so accustomed to using muscle testing, autonomic response testing day to day. But for someone coming in who I think is just like, oh, I've been eating this way and I've been eating that way. And this part of that diet made me feel okay. And this part of that diet made me feel horrible. And you're kind of left just going back to what which was pro-inflammatory to begin with. And the reason that you're here. So I think that being able to personalize everyone's diet, everyone's meal plan, everyone's recipe selection, everyone's dining out choices is a huge benefactor and what sets us apart, because not everyone is going to be able to obtain that information.
Well, and also too, I think like I'll give you like an example that I see a lot is, talking about this blood sugar conversation is, unfortunately, there is a lot of people that are dealing with this roller coaster of blood sugar on a day to day. And by the way, what that looks like is you're not really hungry in the morning. You start your day with caffeine and then you don't eat until, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, but you're starving. Yeah. And then you hoof down like something like a sandwich or a wrap or a sub or pizza and something that's carb based. And then middle of the day comes and you're grabbing for coffee because you've crashed already. So that's like the telltale of a low blood sugar person. But overall, when it comes to people with this unstable blood sugar, one of the primary things that I see very often that's a trigger is oatmeal. And what does everybody eat when they're trying to get healthy?
Oatmeal.
They're like, oh, okay, well, I was doing, my pork roll, egg, and cheese in the morning, but now I'm going to switch to my oatmeal and I'm going to get my health on track. But easily, if your blood sugar is low or unstable, you could be starting your day in a blood sugar crisis just by eating oatmeal. So that's the really cool thing about the autonomic response testing is we get clarity on all of those things. We test your supplements, we test herbs, we test your detox therapies, because a lot of us are holding on to what we call weight, especially after the holidays, but it's more inflammation.
Absolutely.
And people get into the infrared sauna and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I deflated.
And we see it. We physically see it happen. So if someone is here 1 week and the next they literally look like they've lost 10 pounds head to toe, and they're like, well, I just saunaed and started my supplements. And it's just, it's like mind blowing how that is such a trigger for your body to start detoxification.
Well, I think it's just, I love talking about the sauna because there are so many people, and especially women, that are beating themselves up about their bodies. And they're literally like, I'm going to the gym 7 days a week. I'm practically starving myself. Why the heck is the scale not changing? And what they don't realize is that they have inflammation. They have toxins trapped in their tissues. And literally just sweating and getting into an infrared sauna could radically change their bodies. And that's the really cool thing about, some of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So our onboarding process, with that, everything that we just talked about actually is part of our onboarding process. So we do things a bit differently because all of your testing is included under an umbrella. We used to do a lot of these private labs that people had to pay separately for, and it just got really expensive. It was also a bit jarring to the patients coming in because they were coming in for their consultation, but then they left with all of these kits, which we have right here, all these kits, and they had to pay all of these dollars to get these kits done for, stool samples and saliva tests and hormone testing. So we've customized our process that now you get all of your testing under the bracket of what we call the onboarding process.
Some things don't have a price. Depending on you and your goals, what you can achieve is priceless.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was going to be this slide.
So, Grace and Jess's program is $997. So literally that covers your time with them. It covers all of your testing. It covers a review of findings, a customized plan, meal plan, recipes, supplements. What did I miss?
Nothing. That's everything.
Food allergies.
Food allergies, any type of infections or I don't need to get into that, but it covers everything. And family members can then onboard at a discounted price of $597. There is an application process. However, we are going to be launching another sale on the 21st for Dr. Nick's birthday, and you will then be able to get everything at a discounted rate with no application process. So if you're someone who doesn't want to wait to have an appointment to talk to our client services team to sit on the phone, if you're someone who likes saving money, this is definitely the best option and something
goes
to take
live Saturday.
So something to take advantage of because it's only from Saturday to Tuesday, which is Christmas Eve.
Boom. For those of you that have been with us and you are long distance, just know that some of our really, really unique and customized testing that we do is actually done through a DNA sample. You have DNA in your hair. So simply by sending us a hair sample, we can actually do all of your testing from a distance while sourcing your blood work local to you. Mm-hmm. So that's a really cool thing that we do, and it really makes our services accessible to people all over the world. So I'm in the chat box. If you guys have questions that pop up, definitely put them in there as we're wrapping up. But we thank you guys for being here, and we hope that you're able to walk away with some really, really great tools and even just a different mindset of not feeling that you have to sacrifice yourself for tradition or for, what Aunt Sylvia.
I don't have an Aunt Sylvia. I need to state that for the record, but don't give in to people who make you feel like shit or food that makes you feel like shit.
Yes. And if you are looking for any more information, any awesome podcasts or other webinars, check out our website, integrativewellnessgroup.com. And for those of you that are either practitioners or health coaches or nutritionists that are looking to go more integrative and incorporate more of an integrative approach in your practice, we actually have an institute, which is ran by myself. Grace is also participating in our institute, but that is Institute Integrative Wellness Group or integrativewellness.com. All right, guys, we hope you have an amazing holiday and you walk into the new year a better version of you. But if you are looking for better healthcare in 2020, you know where to find us, and definitely take advantage of the deals that we're going to be posting on the 21st.
21st through the 24th. Don't miss it.